less than half of the territory, and it is in strong de facto control of Donna Valley or Donna Valley. So how can you justify this, that Agita is a state in international law before you invade it?
Before you answer that question, can I add a string to my learned brother's bow? You answer this by reference to two instances. The instance of Darfur within Sudan and Eritrea within Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, yes.
By reference to those two, would you then say that today we can all recognize Darfur as a state because they want to secede from Sudan?
Your Excellency, if I just do...
Because based on your argument, if taking the unknown, the little known country of Malaysia, if you take even a less known state like Johor wanting to secede, then we must immediately recognize it.
Your
It makes
Excellency,
nonsense of international law. Don't you agree it makes nonsense of international law?
Your Excellency, in fact, it's of course makes sense of international law.
What? That if anybody can just walk out of a republic and say that I'm all right?
Your Excellency, the peculiar circumstances here is that the Constitution of Donovan Union provides expressly for rights to
But
secede.
there is a serious factual basic dispute within their territory whether there has been a lawful secession. We can't look at that at all. You concede the point. We can't look at it. So the starting point must be your invasion, because there is no state. There can be no request. The collective defense principle has no application. Don't you agree?
Your Excellency, if the submission on statehood is being rejected, it would be the position of the respondent that the submission on collective self-defense would fail automatically. That's the concession made by the respondent. In relation to
It must be a concession.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Because there is no state.
Of course, Your Excellency, it's admitted by the respondent. And in relation
So you have no case.
Assuming that Agita was not a state, however, Your Excellency, even if Agita was not a state, it would be the respondent's submission that the intervention would be nevertheless justified by assistance given to self-determination units. However, before proceeding on to the claim of
That would depend on very, very contradictory and uncertain principles.
Your Excellency, in fact, it would be contrary to Your Excellency's suggestion, with submission of the respondent that the principles is in fact settled before Your Excellencies.
By what?
By international customary law and the consensus made by publicists around the world. If I may now move on to the submission of self-determination plea, Your Excellencies developed. The outline of the argument of the respondent is threefold. Firstly, Agita constitute a people under international law for the purpose of self-determination. Secondly, the right to secede under self-determination has been triggered. And lastly, the rights to assistance to achieve the right to secede can take form in direct military intervention or direct military assistance. Regarding the first submission, it would be submission of the respondent that Agita, on the fact of the case, clearly constitute a people that possess the right to self-determination. They were racially, ethnically, and culturally distinct from the rest of the Donovan Union. Moreover,
as my learned Chief Judge has said, there are three main racial or ethnic groups in the little-known country of Malaysia. That the Indian or the Chinese community in Malaysia constitute a people as far as the right of self-determination in international law is concerned. Taking an analogy.
in fact, Your Excellency, the submission of the respondent would be that there is one more criteria to be satisfied before one can be considered as a people. That is a distinctive territorial claim of a part of a country
So there must be geographical demarcation. If it is distinct territorial claim, there must be geographical issues of geographical assertion.
Your Excellencies, at this point of the stage, it is submitted that it is necessary to have a very precise geographical delimitation.
You mean more or less? I own more or less this place. We don't know how much we own, but this is more or less our country.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Then they must be right. More or less, they must have come into your country.
In fact, the approximation of the geographical limitation is of course, satisfied in the present scenario, and Your Excellency is not.
Again, I'm sorry to intercede, but can you clarify that? When you say there need not be specific geographic limitations to assert territorial independence?
Your Excellency, the one would draw Your Excellency's attention back to the Montevideo Convention on defining territory of a state.
Montevideo Convention didn't say more or less.
Your Excellency, that is maybe convenient for me to clarify the position more or less in the sense that a territory, even for a state, does not have to be precisely agreed by
Can
all
you give
states.
some specific real-life examples regarding territory and statehood? About the need for non-precision.
If I may just draw Your Excellency.
Controversial examples.
Of course, draw Your Excellency's attention to the case of Quebec from Canada.
No, Quebec is still very much in Canada.
Yes.
Give us a case. Last I saw the map, it's still there.
Of course, Your Excellency.
But I join my learned brother in asking you for some contemporary examples of where people have ceded and territory is uncertain and recognition has been given.
Your Excellency, the reason why the respondent is drawing the analogy from
In the
Quebec
last 50 years,
is that
Apart from Quebec, forget the Quebec now. By
apart from Quebec, because Quebec is not in a country where the constitution provides for secession. All right? And Quebec hasn't seceded. They would maybe want to, but they haven't. All right?
in fact, if I may draw Your Excellency's attention to two Russian decisions, and in the Russian constitution there is right to secede provided.
That's a good example.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. And the second requirement for the triggering proceeding on the submission of right to self-determination would be that whether or not there has been in fact a right to secede by that people, article in the present scenario, there are three criteria to be satisfied. Firstly, there must be a total deprivation of democratic participation. Secondly, there must be a systematic violation of human rights. And lastly, there must be an impossibility of peaceful solutions. The first criteria is apparently satisfied on the fact, based on the fact that the Constitution was suspended, specifically targeted at the democratic secession by Arkansas, and force was reasserted over the province of Arkansas to prevent the exercise yesterday.
That is an internal matter. Nothing to do with you.
Your Excellencies, the respondent is not asking the court to rule on that, but rather to take account of that as the factual circumstances of the total deprivation of democratic participation.
So it's the unclean hands principle. Are you relying on the unclean hands principle?
Not exactly, Your Excellencies. This is really
Then what are you relying on?
This is really an evidence to satisfy that a right to secede has been triggered for Arkansas people and not related to clean hand doctrine any whatsoever. The second criteria to be satisfied is, of course, systematic violation of human rights. Your Excellencies, there is a joint panel report produced by Arkansas and the UN before Your Excellencies.
But there was a dissent.
Your Excellencies.
And though there was also, even the majority did not unambiguously come to the conclusion that there was genocide, except in one minority.
That in fact supports the case of the respondent in the sense that dissent proves that in fact the panel report was not done in a one-way manner, in a very biased manner. That was a very balanced report.
But then it weakens the strength of the report, doesn't it?
Your Excellency,
It really weakens it.
it weakens, of course, weakens the report.
So then if it's weakened, why are you referring us to?
The respondent is relying on the unweakened part of the report.
So it's like an egg that is good in parts. You're referring to the good part of the egg, so to
Absolutely,
speak.
Your Excellencies.
Yeah.
In fact,
I think it's either good in whole or rotten in whole.
not exactly, Your Excellencies, in the present scenario.
Truly, Miss Excellency.
Mass